Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel at Megan Abroad. Today's video I'm really excited about because it's been one that's been a long time coming. A lot of people in my everyday life, as well as a few of you online, have asked me, how was it possible that you were able to move to Europe? What are some of the ways and options for people to live in Europe? And I wanted to talk about that in today's video. So in this video, I'm going to show you a lot of different options to kind of get your wheels turning of what are the possibilities for me to even live abroad? Do they even exist? There's a lot of opportunities for everyday people. It's just up to you to go and look into them, to research them, and to take action and make a plan to do it. I think living in another country is a really great opportunity to deeply get to know the culture, the language, make friends, have true experiences, settle into a life there, which you're not gonna get from a 2-week vacation. You're just not gonna get that depth of experience. This video is not meant to be extremely comprehensive. It's meant to be more of a starting off point for you to start to do research yourself, for you to get some ideas about how can I do this. There's a lot of online resources and videos who go into the really nitty-gritty about what are your actual requirements you need to get to this certain visa or to get to this certain country, etc., etc. So I definitely want to encourage you to use this as an inspiration to go do your own research, think about your own life, what's possible, what are you interested in from a culture point of view, from adventure, maybe there's a language you want to learn or practice. All really boils down to you. So I think this video will cover kind of a lot of different perspectives depending on what you want and what stage you are at in your life and your career, etc. At the very final end of the video, I'm going to talk about the route that I took, which led me to live in Germany, and then I later lived there for about 3 years. Yeah, stay tuned for that. So jumping into the first option, which is to get a student visa and to study abroad. I'm gonna put this first because I think it's one of the most common ways that is suggested or explored or talked about. I think this is a pretty well-known option. I'll outline some reasons about why this is a good option and what are some of the pros and cons to it. Pros are it's probably one of the easiest visas that you can get, even regardless of your background or your country you're coming from. Easiest meaning you may need to have a minimum amount of savings, but you won't have things like income requirements or specific experience requirements, which some of the other options that I'm going to lay out might have. And there's different ways that you can do this. So again, you can go for your bachelor's, you can go for your master's even. Let's say you did your bachelor's in your home country and then you want to go for your master's. Or you can even do an exchange abroad. So I did exchange abroad in the Netherlands in my 3rd year of university. It was one of I would say the best 4 months of my life. It was also the first time I'd ever been abroad. And like I said at the beginning, it gave me the opportunity to sink a bit deeper into exploring the Dutch culture, the food, the city I was in, which was Rotterdam. Generally, I think this is the best part about being a student abroad. You have a lot of opportunities provided for you, social clubs that are welcoming to you. You even maybe might have a bit more time freedom, because I know depending on the country you're studying in, European semesters tend to have some long breaks around the summertime and the winter time where you can go and actually travel around or see other countries in the area. That's the best part about Europe, in my opinion, is that traveling around is so easy. Even if you don't have a car, you can fly, you can take a bus, you can take a train. It's amazing. So this is obviously a really popular option, but I also want to highlight it for, I think, Canadians and Americans who wouldn't consider it as much, because although we do have good education in Canada and the US, cost is also a big factor. There's a misconception that to study in Europe, you have to speak the local language or you have to be from there, or that it's expensive or it's not affordable, both of which are, again, misconceptions. There's some countries that are very well known or highly ranked for studying abroad, and I'll list some links down below in the description box so you can go and explore yourself. But countries such as Italy, France, Netherlands, the Nordic countries, Spain have programs that are available in English and comparatively cheaper to what you would pay for in the States or even Canada in some cases. So it's kind of a win-win. You get the chance to live abroad, you maybe save a bit of money, you get to travel. I mean, what's not to like? Again, this can be depending a lot. How would you pick a country where to go? It's going to depend a lot on the field you want to study, the programs that are available in that country for that, the economic opportunities in your field, if you want to stay there after graduating or not. Also the culture that you're interested in, the geography you're interested in, maybe a language you're interested in. That's all going to depend on you. When I was studying in the Netherlands, a lot of people there were from other countries studying full-time. And then also when I moved to Germany, I would say a good majority of my friends were also students there. And I also met some people in my jobs who had studied in a European country like France or Germany and then got hired later and stayed in Europe. So that's also another benefit because you can kind of get your feet on the ground, get feet in the door, whatever metaphor you prefer, and get to know the country's culture and customs and working market, start networking, go to job fairs, and a lot of these countries also have favorable schemes for after you graduate. There's a certain amount of time you can stay in the country to apply for a job. So this can also be a really great way to get into a country to then later set up your life to work there. I think this is a great option for a lot of people from different backgrounds in different countries. Okay, the next option is to get a job search visa. This is something I don't hear people talk about too much, but was apparent to me because Germany has a really good offering of job search visa. And I did a little bit of research as well to see what other European countries are offering it. And there's actually quite a few favorable programs depending on the country. Some other ones I found were Sweden and Portugal. So both Germany and Portugal have a 6-month job search visa for any foreign nationals. And Sweden has a 9-month one. So it starts 3 months, but you can extend it to 9 months. And this is a great chance for you to get your feet on the ground in a country. I think this is a big pro because I always say and have experienced that finding jobs in a country is easier once you're there, simply because employers will take you more seriously when you're already in the country versus when they see on your resume or your LinkedIn that you're already in your home country. Then it seems like a big investment and not very feasible for them to hire you. This may be better if you need to do some on-site interviews or actually meet people or go to job fairs and that type of thing. Some of these activities are still taking place in person, and being in the country already is going to be a huge advantage there. Of course, the major con is you need to be able to subsist off your savings until you find a job there, because you're not going to be able to get any sort of unemployment insurance or anything like that. So you need to have sufficient amount of savings to be able to survive on that amount of time. And also, depending on some of the countries, they want you to have a certain level of education or be in a specific industry or be from a specific profession to be able to get this visa. But if you're really serious about moving there and you know the job market is favorable or has opportunities, then this can be an option for you to get into the country. And once you get hired, it makes it that much faster and easier for you to start working, to start your life there. Okay. Next up is to apply from abroad and get relocation assistance from a company. So this, I had a couple friends who I met who had done this in Hamburg. They had gotten hired while they were in their home country, and then the company had offered a certain amount of relocation assistance. Usually this includes either a stipend for a specific amount, or they cover all your moving costs point blank to move any items, the plane ticket, etc. And they even had, I think, assistance with finding housing, and also full assistance with submitting all the documents to get the correct working visa or residence permit. So pros of this, obviously you get a lot of support from the company themselves, both financially and with some of the bureaucracy, especially if you don't speak the language. So this can be a big help because these things can be very costly in terms of time and energy, and doing it on your own can just be a lot. And so having a company support you with that is great. So you already very much low risk option. You have your job set up there to get started on whenever you move. The cons are this is not as common as it used to be, especially depending on the industry and the economy you're in. It really depends. Usually it's for positions that are in very high demand in a country, such as maybe IT or engineering, where the company is willing to go the extra mile and spend the extra expense to get the qualified workers to come work for them and come live in that country. I would say I haven't seen this option as often as it used to be, especially since Germany is going through a bit of recession. But I think could very well be that some other companies in other countries have this going on. And how I would recommend searching for this, oftentimes people will list it in the job ad that relocation assistance is required. You can use that as a keyword in your search on LinkedIn jobs or the jobs that you're searching for in that country. Or even go ahead and apply from abroad and bring that up with the recruiter or with the hiring manager if they would be willing to provide some relocation assistance for you. If not, maybe they hire you, but you have to handle that on your own, which is also a possibility, but not as favorable. But yeah, essentially applying from abroad and relocating, this is also an option. I would say a little bit more difficult to find these opportunities, but still possible. Okay, the next tip is related to the previous one. That's to apply to transfer branches within your current company. If you're working for a company that's a very large international company and they have branches in multiple countries, you should look into what is the process or programs or opportunities for you to transfer branches for a limited time or for maybe a longer time. Because I know when I was applying for a big logistics company in Hamburg, maybe you know it. They were also offering this as a program that once you've been working for the company for a certain year, you have the opportunity to apply for postings in foreign branches. And also some big banks and maybe insurance companies I've seen also offer this. So I think it's something to look into. Definitely. And again, the pros of this are you have your backing of your company who's going to take care of things like logistics and costs of moving, helping you get set up, helping you find housing, helping you get the right papers and bureaucratic requirements out of the way to get there. Also, you have kind of already a built-in community that you're already there in the company culture, so it's not going to be an extra shock of adjusting to working somewhere new, and they're going to support you along the way. But the con of this is, again, these programs can be very competitive. They can be limited spots available, and oftentimes they will require you to have worked for the company for a certain amount of time before you can even apply. So if you're really anxious, like I want to get over there, I want to go to Europe now, this one might be an option that takes a little bit longer and might be a bit more difficult. Still, something to consider depending on where you're at and where you're working and what industry you're in. This can also be an option for you. Okay, the next one is to get citizenship by descent. This one was reminded to me by one of you guys, actually. One of you commented on my videos that you had gotten German citizenship by descent. So actually, this is an interesting option for you to consider because a lot of European countries have this program, and it can vary depending on the country, where maybe if your grandparents or even your great-grandparents, and sometimes even greater how to explain, yeah, sometimes your ancestors even farther up in generations can also pass on the citizenship to you. So definitely look into that. But I know people who have actually done this. So aside from this one commenter on my video, when I was in Barcelona, I met a lot of Argentinians who had applied for Italian citizenship, and once you get any EU citizenship, you can travel and work and live within that country pretty much without any restrictions. One con to this is you obviously will need to provide all the proof and all the documentation that supports this. Depending on the country, this can be a bit strenuous, I think. And also you're kind of subject to the wait times for them to process, which can be, I've seen, up to a year or even longer. I just wanted to throw this option out there because maybe you do have ancestry from Europe and it's worth looking into. Definitely check it out. What's the worst that can happen? You just find out now. Okay, and the next option is to work as a digital nomad. If you're not aware of the term, a digital nomad is someone who doesn't have a permanent location but instead works while traveling and living around the world. A lot of countries are now recognizing that this is a useful demographic to appeal to bring people into the country with new money for tourism and diversity and that type of thing. So definitely do your research on this. There's a lot of countries coming out with new digital nomad visas. I know just a couple to name: Albania, Portugal, Czech Republic, Finland, Greece, Italy, etc. So the pros of this are obviously you are not really tied down to one specific place. You're already working remotely, and then you have the chance to spend a bit more time in the country than maybe a tourist visa would allow. And a lot of these countries who are attracting digital nomads are building these communities that have other digital nomads coming to them, so you can interact and meet with other people who are in the same stage of life as you, but also maybe from a variety of backgrounds. However, a con to this would be, depending on the country, you have different income level requirements. Some are relatively lenient and some are very high. I think Sweden's is like over 3,000 euros a month that you need to prove going back a specific amount of months that you can make this amount of money, either as a freelancer or a digital worker or whatever the case may be. So that can be the con, but if you meet those requirements and there's a country there that you're interested in that offers this, I think this is also an option to consider. Okay, the last option we're going to talk about today is the option that I took, which is getting a youth mobility visa and then later converting to a blue card. So I'm gonna shout this out because first of all, I found inspiration from a couple other people, Canadians online who had done this before. And I wanna say that especially for Canadians, there's a lot of countries available to you that have youth mobility visa schemes. This also can be called working holiday visas and is not just available for Canadians, but also there's some for Americans, people from New Zealand, South Korea, Australia. You should really just check it out if it's something available in your country and what are the other countries they're connected to. I'm gonna link some down below for Canadians and Americans. I was actually surprised Americans only have 6 options, but Canadians have options to over a dozen. Okay, so what is a youth mobility visa? So it's targeted for people typically 18 to 35 or 18 to 30. This is where 2 countries have a partnership where, let me just get into my specific example because I think it will illustrate a bit better what I'm talking about. So when I wanted to move to Germany, I applied for this visa. The youth mobility visa I got for Germany as a Canadian is probably one of the best I've seen in terms of opportunities and low-level requirements available. So I had to prove a certain amount of things. I had to show my ticket, that I had health insurance, give all my background and information, of course, all that kind of visa stuff. And there's a couple different classifications for the Germany visa, but this one I was applying to had no conditions on where you could work or how long you could work. Some of them do. Some of them have to be in a certain industry or you already need a job contract before you go. But in my case at the time, there was none of those restrictions, so I would be able to start working immediately and I would not have any restrictions on where I can work and how long I can work. By the way, this visa is typically for 1 year. In some cases you can extend it for another year or apply under a different classification. And I would say, well, the original title was working holiday and it was originally for people who wanted to get sort of short-term jobs, maybe in hospitality or tourism, while also funding their travel. This can be used this way if you want to work kind of a short-term hourly job while in between traveling. This can be a good option for you. I chose to use it more as a segue to get into the country working in my field. I was working as a data analyst, so I actually got lucky and within about a month of arriving started working in my field. Then after I'd been working at that company for about 9 months and I knew that the visa was about to run out, I applied for a working visa and I got issued a blue card, which is a specific type of working visa or residence permit that allows you to work in that country. So your stay in the country is tied to having that residence permit and to having that job. Then I ended up staying on that for, the remainder of my time in Germany. So yeah, I won't go into like all the nitty-gritties about that, but I would say it doesn't have to be a blue card. It can also be a different type of working residence permit. There's different classifications depending on your education and your current job and salary. But that being said, I think this was a great way for me to get into the country because once I got a job, I didn't need to wait for the Ausländerbehörde, this is the Foreigners Authority, to process my documents, to wait for permission to start working. I was just able to start right away. This for me was a huge advantage. So if you're Canadian or if you're from a country that has this visa scheme, I would highly recommend that you take a look at the different options, see what countries are interesting to you. But I really hope that this video was able to be an inspiration for you to remind yourself that opportunities are available if you look for them. It's easy to dismiss your dreams because you think that they're not that easy to achieve. If you go looking for blockades, you're always going to find them. But I would encourage you to flip that around, look for the opportunities that are available based on your means, based on where you come from. Take a step in that direction. Start doing the research, start making a plan, start setting a goal, write it down. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this was helpful for you. Best of luck on your journey living abroad. And if you have any more questions or comments, or you want to share about your experience down below, I would love to hear it in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.